the one. He's the number one. Thomas the Tank Engine. He's the really useful engine we have.
The Fat Controller had decided to give a diesel called D261 another chance to work on his railway. The diesel in particular had been boastful and rude to the engine when he had first arrived. The Fat Controller had also purchased another smart-looking diesel, D7101, to come along. They reached the sheds later in the day. "It's time that we took this railway over, eh, 7101? 261 said. The other diesel glared at him crossly. "Shush! This is their railway after all," he persisted. "Not for long. My controller on the other railway says that steam engines spoil our image." Duck had lost patience. "Of course we do," he snapped. "We show what a fraud you are. Call yourself an engine? If anything happens, you care nothing for your train. You just moan for a fitter, like when that bowler hat got stuck in your air intake." The other engines roared with laughter, but the diesel was still fuming. "Nothing ever happens to me. I'm much more reliable than you smelly antiques." Vulgar noises, loud shouting, and loud gasps greeted this, but before the ruckus had progressed, the Fat Controller came to stop the noise. When the Fat Controller had left, the diesel was still fuming over Duck's joke in the adjacent shed. "How rude!" he muttered. "You asked for it, now be quiet and go to sleep." Next day, Henry was taking the express down the main line. When he arrived at the station, there was a problem. "Your regulator's jammed wide open," called his driver worriedly. "I can't budge another inch. We'll have to cancel the train and go back to the yard to get it mended." "But what about the passengers?" Henry worried aloud. "Sorry, Henry, but we have to cool you down so you can mend your regulator. Plus, we can't block the main line for the other engines. We'll have to use a reverser for the homeward journey instead." Henry sighed. There was nothing more he could do. Bertie arrived to take Henry's passengers, and the big green engine puffed sadly away. He felt very embarrassed. "I'm a failed engine," he moaned. "Lost my regulator." "Cheer up, Henry," replied his driver. "At least you've got steam and your reverser, although you have to go slow." That made Henry smile for a bit. But then he thought, "But Gordon and James will laugh at me when they see me like this." He arrived at the signal box. Opposite to him was the rude D261 with a train of tanker wagons. "Even worse," wailed Henry inwardly. "Now the diesel will laugh at me too." But the diesel wasn't paying attention to Henry's and his misfortunes. He was having troubles of his own. The signalman came and gestured to Henry. "For pity's sake, take this stupid bowler away. He's failed. 7101's train is behind, and all he does is wail for his fitter." "Bowler!" fumed the diesel. "You be quiet!" snapped the signalman, "or else I'll ask your controller what scrapyard we'll take you to. Now then!" And then that made the diesel subside. Henry chuckled, but was trying not to laugh too hard. Henry backed down towards the diesel, and his driver turned the reverser to forward. Meanwhile, 7101 roared past with his passenger train. The diesel hoped that 7101 hadn't noticed, but 7101 didn't have to notice the diesel. "Oh, these coaches are heavy," he groaned. He roared at them, but it did no good. He struggled on and on until he came to a standstill. "Well," said his driver, "looks like we have to move 2 diesels, eh? Do you think you can manage?" he asked. "I'll have a jolly good try," said Henry. "Let's get going then. We mustn't keep the passengers waiting." James and Gordon were at the big station when they saw Henry and the Diesels pulling in. They both cheered. The passengers, though, were very cross, but when 7101 told them about Henry, they thanked him instead. Gordon backed down onto 7101's train, whilst James grudgingly took the other goods train. In the meantime, the Fat Controller berated D261. "My engines work hard to keep their trains running," he said to 261, not blocking the line, wailing for a fitter. 261 felt very sorry. "I'm sending you back to the other railway once you're repaired, and I hope you come back a more sensible engine." "Yes, sir," replied D261 timidly, and once he was repaired, he was sent home. In the meantime, Henry and D7101 were going to the works to be repaired. Henry pulling the rather sorrowful-looking Diesel. "I'm sorry about last night. You've probably heard from Gordon, James, and that other green engine how rude we were last night," said 7101 ruefully. "That's alright," said Henry. "I heard that you did try to shut up old Bowler after all." "And," said the Diesel ruefully, "made a fool of myself today by breaking down." "Rubbish! A failed ejector might happen to anyone. I've lost my regulator." "You failed!" stuttered the Diesel. "And yet..." His voice trailed away in admiration. D7101 said no more. He had a lot to think about.